All right, today we're going to dive into the incredible century-long story of a true American icon, Cadillac. And trust me, it's a wild ride. A tale of groundbreaking innovation, total cultural dominance, a catastrophic fall, and now a super high-stakes bet on the future. And it all leads to this beast, the Cadillac Celestiq. Now, this isn't your average car. It's all electric, it's completely hand-built, and it's an ultra-luxury sedan. We're talking each one is a one-of-a-kind creation, and it really represents the brand's biggest gamble in decades. Now, you might hear that phrase and think, okay, that's just some marketing slogan, but it's not. That phrase, standard of the world, is a direct throwback to a title Cadillac officially earned over 100 years ago. It's a title that literally defined who they were. So, to really get what they're trying to do with their future, we have to go way back to the very beginning, to a revolutionary idea that set a new standard not just for luxury, but for manufacturing itself. This is the core of the story, right? This incredible journey from a master of precision to a symbol of pure excess. And it all boils down to one question. Can this brand actually reclaim its crown? So our story kicks off in 1902 with a guy named Henry Leland. He was a master machinist who took over what was left of Henry Ford's first failed car company. See, Leland wasn't really a car designer. He was an obsessive engineer with a philosophy that was about to change everything. Leland brought this concept with him from his time working in military armories. Think Samuel Colt. The idea was simple but totally revolutionary. Every single part should be made so precisely that you could swap it with any other identical part. You have to remember, at a time of hand-fitted craftsmanship, this was a completely radical way of thinking. And would you look at how quickly it paid off? So in 1908, they did this legendary demonstration over in England. Mechanics took 3 cars completely apart, scrambled all their parts into one big pile, and then rebuilt them using just basic tools. And you know what? They all started right up and ran perfectly. That single event proved that mass production could actually mean superior quality, and that's what earned Cadillac the Dewar Trophy and that official title, Standard of the World. So, with its reputation for precision totally locked in, Cadillac became this hub for world-changing engineering. See, Leland's whole philosophy wasn't just about making reliable cars. It built a foundation for innovations that would literally transform the act of driving and make it accessible to everybody. Before 1912, starting a car was a legitimate ordeal. It was dangerous. The hand crank was tough to turn, and it was notorious for backfiring, which could easily break your arm. This was a huge barrier, especially for women, to get behind the wheel. The solution, believe it or not, came from a totally unexpected place. This guy, Charles Kettering, he wasn't an auto industry insider. Nope. He was an engineer at National Cash Register, where he just invented the electric cash register. He basically just adapted that small, powerful motor to turn over a car engine, and boom, he revolutionized the automobile. And of course, Cadillac was the very first to make it standard equipment. Okay, as we head into the mid-20th century, Cadillac's focus starts to shift a little. It goes from being this engineering leader to being the undisputed symbol of American ambition, success, and, style. From massive V16 engines in the 30s that went head-to-head with Europe's best, to those iconic tail fins of the 50s, a Cadillac was a statement. It became part of our culture, from Elvis's Pink Fleetwood to the Ecto-1 in Ghostbusters. If you owned a Cadillac, you had made it. And all that cultural power meant huge sales, peaking at over 200,000 cars in 1968. But there was a problem brewing under the surface. The brand was now all about style, not substance. That obsessive precision of Henry Leland was taking a backseat to chrome and fins, and that left Cadillac wide open and vulnerable. The 70s and 80s were just a brutal wake-up call. Suddenly you've got fuel crises and these new, super reliable, efficient cars coming in from Germany and Japan. Cadillac's dominance just crumbled, and a series of really disastrous decisions pretty much sealed its fate. Okay, this right here, this is the moment that says it all. The V8 6.4 engine. Now the idea was brilliant, an engine that could shut down cylinders to save fuel. It was a concept way ahead of its time, but in 1981 it was rushed to market with flawed computer programming. The system was erratic, it was unreliable, it was a complete public relations disaster, and it was a total betrayal of the very precision that had won them that Dewar Trophy in the first place. And the consequences? They were immediate and they were devastating. Just look at this. Between 1980 and 1990, Cadillac's share of the US luxury market just plummeted. Customers were fed up and they fled to the new standard bearers of quality, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Lexus. So by the late 90s, Cadillac knew something had to change, and fast. To survive, it had to forge a completely new identity, and that identity was called art and science. Instead of looking back at old cars for inspiration, designers looked to completely different places. They took cues from the sharp, angular lines of the F-11-17 stealth fighter and the clean forms of modern architecture. What they created was a look that was aggressive, modern, and absolutely, undeniably American. This whole new design language didn't just happen overnight, though. It was carefully developed through a whole series of stunning concept cars, starting with the 1999 Evoque and going on with cars like the Seal and the Escala. These weren't just show cars, they were public declarations that the old Cadillac was gone and it was being replaced by something sharper, bolder, and way more focused on technology. And all of that brings us right back to today. The art and science era, it worked. It successfully rebuilt Cadillac's reputation. And now, the brand is making its biggest wager yet, betting everything on an all-electric future to finally reclaim its title as the standard of the world. Their strategy really has two parts. On one hand, you've got the LRIQ. That's a high-volume electric crossover designed to bring this new vision to a much wider audience. And then, on the other hand, you have the Celestiq, that ultra-exclusive, hand-built flagship designed to compete at the absolute peak of the luxury world. What's so fascinating is that the whole philosophy behind the Celestiq is a direct echo of the company's beginnings. It's hand-built by artisans with this obsessive focus on precision and bespoke quality for every single customer. It's basically a modern take on the exact same principles Henry Leland used to win that trophy way back in 1908. So what we're seeing is this bold attempt to close a historical circle, right? They're trying to prove that the path forward is actually by looking backward, back to the obsessive focus on quality that first made them great. But it leaves you with this one big question. In an era defined by software and batteries, can the philosophy of a 19th century machinist really, once again, set the standard for the entire world?